All right. Somebody once said, then there were four. And one of the four is not any one of the any one of the teams that Sapphire and I root for. But nevertheless, there's still four. Willie Epting Jr., a Show Nuff Divided. Sapphire, as you can see, is in the building. Ben is out. Let's see. Teisha's out. Dwayne's out. Donnie's out. And Bryan's out. So it's just going to be the two of us rocking and rolling all night long. Thank you guys for joining us on this episode. We really, really appreciate it. And I'm telling you guys right now, well, we'll see. We'll see here in just a second. The thing is that we we are in a place where we never thought we would be, and that's kind of like the political climate that we're in. But it's all to the good. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. In the wide world of the world is going on. I'm interested to get Sapphire's thoughts on the new presidency that's now in place. But before we go any further, y'all already know what we got to do. I think it's time to go get it, Sapphire. What say you?
I say we.
We. Okay. With that being said, here we go. So Sapphire, one of the teams, of course, in a Show Sho Nuff Divided is the Kansas City Chiefs, as they had that walk-off win against whoever it was. I don't really care who it was. They stink. I still hate them. And how are you doing on this fine Wednesday evening?
Hey, life is good. Life is good. I'm always excited to be on Show Nuff. What is it? Show Sho Nuff, Show Sho Mama something or whatever. Always excited to be here.
Well, good. I'm so happy that you're here. And again, in the absence of Teisha, Bryan, Ben, and Leslie, and Dwayne and Donnie, shout out to them. Yeah. Of course, I was really hoping that Ben would be here because of obviously with him, the author and the founder of Bill's Mafia or the Mafia Members podcast. But apparently Ben had more important things to tend to. He does have a newborn, so that is way more important than whatever we can do here. So let's go ahead and get into this. And before we actually get to the world of sports, we're going to get to the what in the wide world and the world is happening. Of course, Donald Trump was enshrined or inaugurated on Monday as the 47th president of the United States. He's already making a whole bunch of waves in terms of the campaign promises that he made up to and including ending things or beginning things on day one that obviously has not happened yet. He did do something that was very unprecedented from any other presidential term in the history of our country, which means he actually released and pardoned or commuted the 1,500 or so felons, or I'm sorry, not felons, the 1,500 or so people charged in the Capitol assault from January 6th of 2021. So all of those individuals are either free or going to be free at some point. Some of them were serving, had been sentenced to terms as many as 22 years and others up to a matter of 6 or 7 months. So the disparity of the time in terms of the punishment phase is what it is. But I think we're more concentrated, Sapphire, on the fact that President Trump decided to go ahead and commute and or pardon these citizens and these sentences rather, and these people are no longer captive in prison. What was your first reaction when you first heard or saw that Mr. Trump had done this deed?
You know what? I really didn't. because I have made a decision to stay focused on what I feel are more important things. I will say this, all things are in God's hands, right? So I think for me, it's important to stay in that lane and let the human beings in Washington and all over the world do what they do. I'm just going to continue to praise the good Lord. That's what I'm going to do. And just hope that we're all, as a country, we are all just kind to each other, right? And we try to live what the Bible says. Those of us that truly believe in that book, with the words in that book, that's the space that I'm living in, Willie.
Here. And of course, now joining us is Irie Harris. Of course, he is one of the co-stars and co-hosts of Fear the North podcast. And of course, you can watch right here on the ShakeBack Media Group on Tuesdays. And they did their thing last night as usual. Irie, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, what's up? How's everything, guys? Yeah.
Everything is everything, man. And if you can speak up just a tad, and we'll make sure that you're heard by the people watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and of course, Twitter. And so yeah, I agree with you, Sapphire. I've been kind of going back and forth with a bunch of people that supported Donald Trump, and the things that I continue to hear is the fact that they give a pass to everything that this guy has done. And to me, that is a troubling thing, because now the guardrails are completely off. He's basically free to do almost whatever he wants. And it just seems like he doesn't care. I don't know if you guys saw the bishop at the prayer sermon, or did the prayer sermon for the breakfast yesterday, but he came out and attacked that woman after that lady just pleaded with him. Hey, Mr. Trump, Mr. President, can you please have mercy on these people that you're trying to deport? Can you please have mercy on those individuals that are critical to our infrastructure in terms of some of the jobs that they do? And afterwards, he came back and he attacked her like he always does when people don't agree or fall in line with what his policies are or what his thoughts are. Irie, I just want to know from your perspective, man, did you have a reaction, or what was your reaction when you saw any of that?
That's a good question, and hopefully, first of all, before I further the answer, do I sound better now? Do I sound like my item's much higher?
Yes, you're okay.
Okay.
Got a lot of noise in the background, but okay.
Yeah. Apologies. Yeah, I'm curious. So I cover Cleveland State basketball as well during the off season. So apologies for the voice in the background. They're doing some kind of announcement or something at halftime. I just thought I'd jump in and say hello. But regarding my answer to that question, I really didn't have too much person of like reactions like, oh my God, because honestly everything at this point is just a simulation. If you ask me. So that was only a part of what's going on, but it definitely had to be said, and definitely had to be. I think it definitely brought more awareness with it being said of somebody within that stature of the church of holiness, that some would say. So I definitely thought that was interesting, but I gotta get going real quick and get back to covering before we start the second half. I just want to come in and say hello and thank you again, for all you do. Appreciate you really for opportunity and everything that you brought us, with Freedom of Podcast. We appreciate you, being able to be a part of this media group, and we'll talk more again. But I just want to come in and just say hello and thank you guys, and hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your night on the show. All right.
Yeah, you're welcome, man, and much appreciated. You go over there and finish doing what you're doing and have fun doing it, and we'll talk later.
For sure. All right, thank you, guys. See you.
All right, see you later. All right. So so there goes Irie Harris. Of course, he is he's on the job, but on the job at the same time. So, but yeah, Sapphire, I when you talk about we just need to just keep, and it's like you said, the true believers, not the ones that are free of making any mistakes, not the ones of us that are without sin, because none of that exists. I mean, the true believers that know that Jesus is the Son of God, that he was born and he came down here in the form of a man. He had a ministry on earth. He was killed, and on the third day he rose with all power in his hands. And because of him, we have everlasting life. I'm talking to the people that believe that, not those that may that may use Christianity for their own personal agendas. And I think there's a lot of that going on. And our prayer for you guys is that you will recognize what the truth is and come back to what the truth is. All right. Let's go ahead and get into the show. Got a lot to talk about, of course. I'm already going to get into it. Did you see that? So I have a did you see that? And of course, it is going to revolve around the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is courtesy of, I want to say it's ESPN. I think, yeah, it is ESPN because it was Troy Aikman that said this. And to me, it is very, very funny, and it is very ironic that a former quarterback and a Super Bowl champion would say this. So here is our, and I'm going to play it right now because here it is. Well, I guess I need to hit play. Let's hit play. It's always good to hit play.
You have to start to understand the position these defensive players are in. Patrick Mahomes in that moment is running side to side. He's basically playing with the defenders. And then when they close on him, he falls straight to the ground. Right. This wasn't a situation of sliding and giving yourself up. These players were trying to tackle Patrick Mahomes as he danced around versus their defense. And when you have a call like this in this situation that gives the Kansas City Chiefs a new set of downs, that's an issue. Yeah. Think back early on in the game to the Will Anderson Jr. roughing the passer as well, where he made clear connection with the shoulder pad of Patrick Mahomes. We're not making an excuse or saying this is the reason that they won.
But you got to acknowledge the calls.
Exactly. And versus the team that you have to be virtually perfect against, them being helped by some bad or questionable calls really hurts a team like the Houston Texans.
So that was Ryan Clark on with Scott Van Pelt from ESPN, and that was SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt. And if you saw, that was one of the questionable calls in that Texans game against the Chiefs. So we all saw what happened. Sapphire, that was a penalty that was called on the Texans. To me, when I saw it in real time, it did not look like it was a penalty. Of course, as they kept replaying it over and over again with different angles, it was confirmed that it was not hit, or it was not an egregious hit. Are these the type of calls that we're going to look for, or we're going to expect to see again when the Kansas City Chiefs battle the Buffalo Bills for the AFC crown?
I mean, I feel, it's become the norm, right? And I go back to, was it last year? I can't remember. Was it Tony that was in the neutral zone, lined up in the neutral zone? The referee had the nerve to throw the flag. He had the nerve to throw the penalty flag because he was clearly in the neutral zone. But at the end of that game, after F-bombing on the sideline, Patrick Mahomes comes out, gets behind that mic and says, "You don't call that play like in that situation." Now, I've heard terms like suspended belief all my life, but it took me to see him say that after the game to understand that apparently when you go to Kansas City, there is a whole different level of reality. Mm-hmm. And it gives, in those circumstances, it has given the Kansas City Chiefs an advantage. What is the defense supposed to do? Blow on him? Wrap the flag around the waists in the NFL? What are they supposed to do? So, to me, it's become the norm. And also, real quick, you look at last weekend's game, the Ravens at Buffalo, there was a very questionable pass interference call that was made in that game too, which I took under my umbrella of micro momentum shifts. Mm-hmm. So it's become the norm.
I think I agree with you. And as ridiculous as it is for a former player in Ryan Clark and a Super Bowl champion in Ryan Clark to say what he said, it actually speaks volumes as to what we have seen in the past when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs and the officials. Now, when it comes to Kadarius Toney and him lining up all sides, you have to understand, or we have to understand as fans, that a penalty is not going to be thrown on something like that unless the official has given some true sort of warning to the team that's committing the infraction that wasn't called previous to that. They probably gave Kadarius Toney and the Chiefs, for that matter, multiple opportunities and multiple warnings about them being offsides like that. And then it happened again. So that is actually, that becomes more on the player than anything else. Now, I have another clip. This one features Patrick Mahomes himself. And I'm going to play this one as well. And I want you guys to hear what Patrick said in terms of the exact same thing. Here we go. That means you got protection or anything like that from officials around the rest of the
not. I don't feel that way. I mean, I just try to play football at the end of the day. The referees are doing their best to call the game as fair and as proper as they possibly can. And all you can do is go out there and play the game that you love as hard as you can and live with the results. And so for me, it's to go out there, play hard, try to do whatever I can to win the football game. And then live with the results based off my effort and the way that we play the game. And so I think that's what we preach here in Kansas City. Is it feeling different for you? Is it better now? At some point in your career, or is it been the same the whole time? I haven't felt any different. You get new referees every year. You get new circumstances. You never can really tell because every play is different. That's what makes the NFL so special. And so I feel like I've just continued to play the game, and I just try to win. And whatever happens, kind of happens.
Okay, now this is going to be an easy one to pick apart, in my opinion. Sapphire, when Patrick Mahomes or any other person or any other player is asked a question like that, what are they supposed to say? I mean, they're not going to say, "Well, yeah, man." Yeah, they're not going to say, "Well, yeah, man, we got $1 million check in the pocket of the referees and thing went our way when we expected it to go our way." I mean, really, what was he hoping to gain by asking Patrick Mahomes that question?
That's a great question, because what was he supposed to say? Right? He definitely doesn't want to draw the ire of any of those referees in future games, right? And he wants to come across like, hey, I don't feel any different. My focus is, it's called a redirect. That's what we call it. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. What was he supposed to say?
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of like when a person or anything in any other area of life, when things go your way, or for instance, when somebody has been found or arrested for something and then they're ultimately convicted for it, but when in the trial phase, if they believe that they're 100% innocent, and somebody asks, well, why did you, what was the purpose of you doing what you're doing? Or what are they going to say? Well, I just did it because I felt like it and I didn't really give any regard to the law. No. I thought it was a cool line of questioning to see what he was going to say, but he wasn't going to trap that dude into saying anything like that, because you have to know that there's more than likely a good probability that the public relations team for the Kansas City Chiefs have addressed beforehand any type of situation or potential question that will come from something like that.
I would agree with that. And I would also say that organization probably has that reporter on a list.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly.
Exactly. On a list.
and that's okay. But shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs public relations team, because they are like on top of the world when it comes to handling situations like that. Now, I do have one final one that I'm going to play, and this is actually from Troy Aikman in the game against the Texans as well. And when you look at and when you hear what Troy had to say, it really makes you think, okay, is there something really going on out there that they're not telling us? Here we go.
2nd and goal. Mahomes fakes that little pass and then puts it in his left hand. He kind of flops out of bounds. They're not going to throw a flag. Mahomes trying to get a free first down, won't get it. And a gain of just 2 is To'o is along the sideline to make the stop.
He's trying to draw the penalty. You see that rather than just run out of bounds, he slows down. And that's been, that's been the frustration. And I get it. I understand it. That's been the frustration for these defensive players around the league.
That is from Hall of Fame quarterback, 3-time Super Bowl champion, former #1 overall pick, Troy Aikman, with the comments. I think he said, Sapphire, what a lot of people are thinking.
I would agree with that. It kind of reminded me when I watched that of how Bryan used to flop, right?
Used to.
And then it took the league a minute to say, okay, we're going to start penalizing you for that, right? I mean, it's obvious to the viewers, but like you said, to have a Hall of Famer like Troy Aikman point that out, like deconstruct that play, I mean, what more can I say to you?
Nothing. That's why we hate them. All right. Moving right along. All right, that's enough of that. Moving right along. Divisional round wrap up. The Washington Commanders order the Lions right out of the playoffs, 45-31. The Ravens drop a heartbreaker to the Bills, and I know you guys talked about this last night on Fear the North, 27-25. The Rams fall short in Philly to the Eagles, 28-22. And, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Houston Texans 23-14. I've got some questions for you, Sapphire. Are you ready?
I'm going to be the best I can be right now.
How much regret, if any, do we think Chicago has for taking Caleb instead of Jaden Daniels?
Like tons. Tons. I can't even quantify it.
Mm-hmm. I think there may not be as much regret as people may believe. And the reason why I say that now is because, of course, this outline was constructed before one of the coaching vacancies in the NFL was filled. And that, of course, offensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions is now the head coach of the Chicago Bears. So there may not be as much regret as one may think. We've seen what Ben Johnson has done with Jared Goff. We saw what he did with the Detroit Lions offense for the past several years. Chicago has a lot of great young talent there in place, a mix with some veterans with Keenan Allen and, of course, Cole Kmet and DJ Moore. Roma Dunze is the rookie receiver that they got from Washington in this past draft, and, of course, Caleb at the helm. So it may not be as much regret as we may think because of that.
Well, what are you defining? You know, how are you defining that? Because for me, if I'm a long-suffering fan, which I am, obviously, because I'm a Browns fan, I thought Chicago had a golden opportunity to make the playoffs. If it hadn't been for some very obvious game management challenges that they had, and what I view as a lack of vision from an offensive perspective, I thought they had enough to make it to the playoffs with Caleb. And that's where I say to you, I can imagine they do have a lot of regret because Jaden Daniels is special, Willie. I have seen him play in person, and it's all of the things all of the pundits out there talk about. But to me, he's like a new iteration of Lamar Jackson, but farther along in his development than Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. He reads defenses exceptionally well, right? He just gets it. He also, just by his presence on the gridiron, compels his teammates to elevate their game, right? They are peaking. I don't want to get off topic here. They're peaking at the right time. So for me, if I'm a Bears fan, I'm saying, man, coulda, shoulda, woulda. They probably would have made the playoffs in my mind, just based on those intangibles that Jaden Daniels brings to the table that differentiate him from one Caleb Williams.
In my opinion, I think Jaden Daniels is closer to a Randall Cunningham than he will be to a Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Randall Cunningham, he had a weird throwing motion. Lamar has a weird throwing motion as well, but Jaden is much more. I think Jalen is much more polished in his passing delivery than either of those two quarterbacks when they came in, or at the same time, at the same point in their careers that Jaden is in right now. So I would put him more close to that than probably Lamar. All right. Excuse me. The Lions, we just talked about them and Ben Johnson, of course, and now he's in Chicago. Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, is now the head coach of the New York Jets. We have seen what happened to these contenders when they lose their coordinators. So is the Super Bowl window still open for Detroit?
That's a tough one. That's a real tough one for me. I would say they're up against it, right? I really didn't follow them too much this season, but what I think I saw again was you had a leader in Dan Campbell that, sometimes men and women could just walk into a room and you just, in that environment, you just want to be better, right? Mm-hmm. To me, he has that kind of street cred. Mm-hmm. But when I think about Jared Goff, I wasn't surprised they lost that game. Mm-hmm. That's what he is. And I thought that Detroit had to put a ton of points on the scoreboard all season to win a lot of those games, right? So, I mean, I'm not trying to say anything bad about Jared Goff, but from a fan perspective, I could see where, I don't know what they're going to do to replace that coach, but I could definitely see where they're up against their window.
Of course. And when you look at it from that standpoint, what kind of offense is the next offensive coordinator going to bring in? The good thing for the D coordinator that comes in is that all those guys that they lost to injury are going to be back, to include one of the better pass rushers in the National Football League in Aiden Hutchinson. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens on that side of the ball when they all come back. And we still have to give a whole lot of love to the Lions for making it as far as they did with all of the injuries that they had throughout the season and losing arguably their best player. Jared Goff, he had a bad day. He picked the worst time of the year to have his worst game. And the offense as a whole, you cannot give away the ball 5 times to a team that is loaded with talent like the Commanders and expect to really have a much of a fighter chance to win that game. So I think their window is open, but it's closed a notch. And you got to think that Chicago's going to be better. Green Bay ain't going anywhere. We'll see with Minnesota. I think Minnesota is a big question mark. I think Minnesota will be the biggest question mark going into the 2025 season than any other team in that division. So
absolutely,
we would definitely see how that plays out. All right, I got another question. Is Lamar Jackson the reason why the Buffalo Bills beat the Ravens? Give us
I was so fired up. I was so fired up about this last night on Fear the North. For me, the problem across the season has been Todd Monken's. I don't know how you don't utilize Derrick Henry. I just don't understand it. And we really thought over the last month that he had found the right path because they were using him more, right? Proven formula. Beat them down with the run. That opens up opportunities, in the other facets of your offense. To me, it's Todd Monken, the play calling. That's the issue for Baltimore. That is what I truly believe. And I think when I looked at that game, and when they decided, oh my gosh, I'm having PTSD. It is not Lamar Jackson. It's not Lamar Jackson. Let me just answer your question and leave it there.
I would tend to agree, but to a slightly lesser degree because of the turnovers, because of the fumble, because of the interception. But after that, he did everything humanly possible for that team to win. I agree with you in the fact that for some reason or another in this particular round of the playoffs, in this stage of the season, in the NFL, Todd Monken just seems like he just forgets who he is and forget everything they have done that got them to the point where they were. And to me, that becomes a fireable offense when it keeps happening. This is the second time it has happened in as many years. So at some point, that has to become a fireable offense.
Okay, let me jump in and say this. the issue. I answer your question about the issue being Todd Monken, but I'm going to be very consistent. Lamar Jackson, like Baker Mayfield, was overwhelmed in that moment. Those 2 turnovers, listen, again, micro momentum shifts. Those turnovers may have seemed insignificant because you net out his performance in the second half, but it still had a impact on the game. So, and I didn't expect that from Lamar. And I don't think Lamar was happy with his own play. But I want to be very consistent with that. He was overwhelmed. Andrews was overwhelmed. Even though they clearly did not have Zay Flowers, no way should the Baltimore Ravens have performed the way they did this past weekend at the Buffalo Bills. No way.
Right. And Derrick Henry did have 84 yards rushing, but it was only 16 carries. Now, imagine if they would have given the ball to him 10 more times. Dwayne.
Yo,
what's up?
You
man?
have no idea. I've been racing to get in here because you didn't hit my topic. You didn't hit me. Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, let me finish my point, and then we'll give you an opportunity to make your point on Lamar Jackson and whether or not he was the reason why the Buffalo Bills beat the Ravens in the divisional round. But back to what I was saying about Derrick Henry, 84 yards rushing, but he only had 16 carries. So that's what, 5-point-something yards per carry. Justice Hill even had 6 carries for 50 yards.
Yep.
So their rushing yard total looks impressive. But for some reason, it feels like there was no impact from the running attack at all. Dwayne, get in here and tell us, well, number one, do you think it was Lamar Jackson's fault or the reason why the Ravens got beat by the Bills? What are you praying?
No, I'm sorry. I got all right, so no, I wouldn't say this. Lamar, there's accountability. When you mess up, you own it. You definitely did that, and we have no problem doing that for him. Lamar, you effed up, cool. But like you said, he did everything humanly possible to keep the Ravens in that game and get them back to where they could actually take the lead. Mark Andrews unfortunately had some butt fumbles with his fumbling and dropping the ball on a 2-point conversion. Play calling was terrible. Listen to me, people. There are only so many quarterbacks in the NFL who can say they had a Derrick Henry behind them. Lamar Jackson is one of them. I said that last week. The pressure was more on him than it was Josh Allen because you got a Derrick Henry. Unfortunately, I don't know, and you hit the nail on the head when you talked about Monken. Play calling is atrocious because how in the world do you have a Lamar Jackson and a Derrick Henry, and yet we're not running the ball like we're supposed to? Hello, talk to me. What we doing? So my thing is this, though, and I'll cut it here. Very short and sweet and simple. You don't go out and get a Ferrari just to take it around the block. That's not what you do with that. You don't go and get a Ferrari to go down to Publix and get some milk. That's not what you do with that. It's absolute nonsense what I'm witnessing happening consistently now with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm with you on the Monken's tape. You got to go.
Yeah.
You have to go. There's no excuse for that. And Harbaugh has some too, because you're allowing the ultimate decision comes down to you.
Very true.
Come down to, and when I realized I got a Derrick Henry and all he doing is going around the block to get some milk at that Publix instead of actually cranking it up and hitting it, we got a problem. Monken's come in, let me talk to you. I know what you're trying to do. And then they did something too that was very weird to me. Like, so last week I talked about how they led off by having Lamar run, which opens up the lane because it keeps the defense honest. Now you got to play your schemes. You got to play a gap responsibility. And that opens things up for your passing game as well as lanes for Derrick Henry. Why do we automatically know? They're going to zero in on Derrick Henry. Let's give it to him then. Stick with what worked. Run Lamar first. Make them be responsible. Make them go sideline to sideline. Make them have gap responsibility. Now they can't zero in on Henry, and you get more than 5 yards of carry. Who knows? The boy had more, 60-yard runs than how many people? Saquon only had more.
Yeah. And to your point, Dwayne, about Monken, and I had said at some point you have to look at it as being a possible fireable offense. It's not as egregious, in my opinion, as what Eberflus did against Detroit when they totally mishandled the clock situation. But then again, it kind of is, because you're in this position and you're 1 game away from possibly going to the Super Bowl, or 2 games away from going to the Super Bowl. And the same thing you did last year, you did this year. Now, I will say this, to their credit, to the Ravens' credit, their rushing totals was over 160 yards, but it just didn't feel like it. It just did not feel like they were running the ball in situations that you would think would help be able to, number one, keep Josh Allen off the field, and then number 2, tire out a Bills defense that is already lighting the booty.
But let me ask you men this, and well, I appreciate you. I mean, for me, I would not want to, it's almost like chess. I wouldn't want to start with running Lamar, especially, in the weather situation they were up there. For me, I'm old school AFC North, smash mouth football. I got a tank in Derrick Henry. Like, I'm looking at my offensive line and saying, men, we just need a crack. Let him do the rest of that work. I don't understand why they did not start with that kind of approach with Derrick Henry. Help me understand.
Let me tell you why. Because this is why I love AFC football. Willie knows this. AFC football is special to me, near and dear to my heart, even though I'm a Colts fan, but it's near and dear to my heart because I'm a linebacker first and foremost. And if you can run the ball and you can play defense, you will win. That is AFC North supremacy right there. Now, the problem with that is what you just described is fourth quarter mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And I can do that now when I have worn down that defense. They didn't do that.
Yeah.
That those boys were still fresh. There was a reason why it's fourth quarter late in the game, and they can still get in the backfield. They can still, because they were not as tired as they should have been.
That's so fascinating. Because I'm not to cut you off, but I think about Justice Hill. I think about Derrick Henry. I think about back in the day, Willie, the boxers that, little hits to the body, body blow. And then when you get into the mid to late rounds, it's like those, boom, you see it, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
I appreciate you all because I've never played football, right? Mm-hmm. And I just thought there were 2 different Lamar Jacksons in that game. First half and second half. And go ahead.
No, I was going to just to throw in there real quick, but there are also 2 different styles of play calling.
Mm-hmm.
There are. But how many carries did you have? Okay, so Derrick Henry, if you're the OC, I'm gonna ask both of y'all, if you're the OC coming into this game and you got a Derrick Henry, how many carries must Derrick Henry get?
For me?
For you, what is your thought process coming into this game? How many carries?
Minimum 25.
Willie?
I agree.
He finished with how many?
16.
16 carries is unacceptable.
Yes,
Here's what's even crazy. You think 16, you say maybe it was a split load. The next touches were behind him were Justice Hill with 6.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar Jackson with 6.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So even with that, the 3 of them combined, that's what, 28 carries? Yeah. Derrick Henry could do 28 carries by himself.
And on top of that, it's not like they were so behind on the scoreboard where they just had to abandon the run and then just start throwing the ball all over the place. It was never it never got to that point. That's why I say
it felt like this is what it is, because the turnovers, they got 10 points off of turnovers. Buffalo got 10 points off of turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But if you look at it and you say, well, if they hold Josh Allen to 127 points, 127 yards passing, surely Baltimore is going to win this game. The turnovers
killed him.
Cost him. And he was 16 of 22. When you're 16 of 22, that's almost pinpoint. That is almost pinpoint out there. So it feels like Josh Allen is unstoppable. He just had a short yard. Let's go ahead and try to make them work for something and then see what happens. Now, see what was crazy to me was this is where I knew they were in trouble. You remember how they got down there towards the end zone? You should have been able to kill that clock.
That's right.
That was a lot of time still. Even if Andrew catches that ball, it was what, a minute 20 something left, minute 30, almost a minute 30. That was still a lot of time. I got a Derrick Henry. I'm finna drag this clock. I got a Lamar Jackson. I'm finna drag this. We are not throwing anything, but they threw because they had to. Because again, that front was not exhausted. They could still apply pressure, get in that backfield, cause hell for Lamar Jackson. That's what I said. Monken did a terrible job utilizing the web. He did the exact same thing they did last year. And that's what fooled me about this season. I knew what they did last year. Nobody was harder on them than I was about what they did last season because they led the NFL in rushing and got in the game and didn't want to run the ball. Make sense to me. But then you go out here and you signed a Derrick Henry for pennies. I said, this is it. This is exactly what Lamar needed. Case closed. They have let it be known you won't get us again. We running the ball. And you got Derrick Henry. Not only did you get him, guess what, dog? He stayed healthy all year.
And he rushed for almost 1,900 yards.
This was it. Monken blew it, bro.
Yeah. Final thought on that question, Sapphire?
I mean, first of all, honestly, this is the chick in me, gentlemen. I don't care. I really hope that Lamar Jackson is okay. You know, I'm gonna be like that quasi mama. I want him to go somewhere away from this country, a warm beach somewhere, and just work through his emotions. You know, and I'm hopeful that he's going to be okay because I think they still have a ton of upside coming into 25.
Yeah, and that it kind of raises the question that I asked earlier in the show, and I'm going to ask it now. Has the Super Bowl window for the Baltimore Ravens closed, or is it still open?
Still open. Still open. One of the biggest things that they also was missing in this game, Zay Flowers.
Yeah, we did discuss that.
Zay Flowers was a huge X factor in this game if he plays. So to think about what they were able to accomplish with Rashad Bateman and Andrews, sensational. You got Justice Hills coming out the backfield, sensational. You did good. Like I said, Lamar actually was not bad throwing the ball. 18 for 25. He only missed one more pass than Josh Allen. It was the fact of the turnovers cost him. But Lamar's still under 30. Derrick Henry, like I said, he made it through a season fully healthy. Can you get him back, for next year? Pray about it. Because, like I said, you got him for pennies, and he went out there and showed you he still has value. But I don't think that this is – they see the formula now. You just got to execute. So, window ain't closed.
I don't think it's closed either. And just real curious, do you think they look at T. Higgins or Godwin the offseason?
Yeah, they definitely need to upgrade in that wide receiver room.
You have to. T. Higgins is easily a number one receiver, but he's just not going to get that because of how great Jamar Chase is. But in Buffalo, him, Zay Flowers, man.
Baltimore.
I'm sorry, in Baltimore?
Yeah.
Him, Zay Flowers, that's unquestionable right there. You have to go after that, man.
My only concern about Chris Godwin is his injury history, and I think he is actually –
yeah, you're right.
I think he's actually older than the guys that we just mentioned. All right, let's continue forth. I got another couple questions that we need to get to. This one actually involves the Texans. This is the second straight year the Texans have lost in the divisional round. What needs to happen for them to advance further next year, Dwayne? And I know you picked them to go to the Super Bowl. So what needs to happen for them to go to the Super Bowl this year?
Them boys got to stay healthy. I still think if you bring back this same squad with another year of chemistry, you mean to tell me Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell? Now, Tank Dell probably won't be playing next year. And it's amazing when you think about the injuries he suffered in his lower limbs, how he can even still think he has a career left. I mean, God bless him, be with him if he still does. But Joe Mixon, Joe Mixon was actually still a back with them. That offensive line has got to improve.
Yes,
they have to, because now you're turning CJ into a gun-shy quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't want to do that. That's how you ruin quarterbacks. Like, you can go ahead and get these star-studded quarterbacks, but when you put them out there, they need to be protected, or else you're going to damage your product before you even really get it off the shelf like that. CJ is still a good quarterback, but the boy's getting gun-shy because he's getting hit a lot.
Yeah, I think he was sacked.
Your O-line.
I think he was sacked more than any other quarterback in the National Football League in 2024. So
Houston did it again.
Yeah, exactly, because they did the same thing to David Carr when he was a rookie. Gave up 73 sacks that year, and that's the reason why he was on the NFL Network probably sooner than he should have been. Sapphire, what is it going to take?
I'm going to agree with Dwayne totally. They need to get healthy, right? I'd like to see them use the tight end a little bit more. But my big question mark, Dwayne, and let me just bring it from the female perspective again. There are times when I feel like Mr. Mixon is unstable and it affects the team, right? And don't know the man, but I'm just watching. You know, he's emotional, right? And so I wonder if that's going to be their guy moving forward. What are your thoughts on that, gentlemen?
Go ahead, Dwayne.
So, emotional instability in football can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. It can be a good thing when you need, if you have the intentions of being a motivator. You know, this is the one who's going to go above and beyond, because at this point in time where we're a little too scared to step in that water, he's all the way out there because he's desperate to get it done. At the same time, it's a bad thing when he becomes a hothead. And then, of course, his track record and his past can kind of attest to that too. And then we don't want nothing stupid to happen, because nothing is worse on a drive. Nothing is a bigger drive killer than penalties. Penalties and mistakes, and that's what you don't want from a Joe Mixon. So I get what you're saying, but at the same time, the numbers are there. Joe Mixon is still a productive running back. Can you find better?
He's not 30 yet either, is he?
Nah, I think he might be like towing the line. You know, in running back years,
he's 29 this year.
I tend to agree with both you guys. Here's what I'm going to add, though. I think their defense is tremendous. They've got Danielle Hunter on one side. Of course, they have Will Anderson on the other side. They have Derek Stingley in the defensive backfield. So they have difference makers at every level of defense. The offensive line was one of the most penalized offensive lines in America, in the National Football League. That absolutely has to improve. I think CJ may have been a victim or may have been exposed to what they call the sophomore slump. Because the AFC is so loaded, the Texans are going to be back as probably the division champions again, unless the coach do something big. And we know that the Jacksonville Jaguars are undergoing a whole bunch of change there. They let go of their general manager today, and of course, Doug Peterson was fired last week. So they're going to be in a rebuild for the next foreseeable future. One could assume the Titans are a complete mess. So it's still there for the Texans to keep on dominating the division.
I want to say this too. Mixon, like I said, the numbers were there. Mixon was 18 for 88. He did not disappoint. Almost 5 yards of carry is pretty good, and a touchdown. So that's production. Problem is, again, like I said, gun-shy quarterback, lack of. They could have really beaten this team. He was not wrong to be as emotional as he was, because when you see blatant cheating going on, and I'm not even just getting on the refs, I'm coming for Mahomes, Teisha. I'm coming for Mahomes. That whole slow down when you get to the sideline, hoping for contact. Come on, dog. You know we can't. And then if you don't touch him and he take off running down the sideline, they getting on you because you done blew the play.
You missed it earlier. I think I'm gonna be able to get it on right here. Let me.
And while you do that, let me ask you something, because I didn't really follow the Texans closely. Is that Stingley, Willie, and is he related to Daryl Stingley back in the day?
I have no clue.
Oh,
It's because that's too legacy. It feels too legacy. They have to be, especially.
I want to say this: people better put some respect on that kid's name. When
Yeah.
you mention the young cornerbacks, the young crop of cornerbacks like Sauce Gardner, you better put Derek Stingley name in there too.
It's that name's too distinct. I would imagine.
He a dog, man. He a dog.
Yeah, okay. and when you have a corner that can take away essentially half of the field, you got half the battle won. I don't know D'Amico Ryan's he doesn't blitz a lot. It seems like they play a lot of zone, and Stingley appears to me, and y'all let me know if I'm wrong, because I never played cornerback and I only played football as a Pop Warner or middle school. But does it seem like that they play a lot of zone, and that may not be Derek Stingley's strength?
They're doing that not just for Derrick Henry though. Again, if that's your best corner, you can adjust it whatever. It may not be his strength, but what that means is when you finally get some help on the defense, which they can add a few more DBs or whatever. Because you know how you've seen secondaries where you have a top tier number one corner, and then the rest of the secondary is kind of like, so that's why you have to play your zones to kind of compensate for stuff like that. Especially when you have, like you said, a Will Anderson who roams loose and can wreak havoc. You need to have people in position ready to make plays whenever. But it's not his best because he come from DBU, bro.
Yeah.
He cut from the cloth.
And you know, it's interesting because DBU, I had a debate with myself, and myself told myself that wide receiver U is now Ohio State over LSU. Nah. And yeah, I don't know. We're not gonna get there now. I mean, that's gonna be a great topic for the offseason.
I can kill it right now, but
no, I'm not gonna let you do it right now. I'm not gonna let you make it. I'm not gonna let you do it right now. And by the way, congratulations to the Ohio State Buckeyes for clinching the national championship over the Notre Dame Fighting Irish this past Monday. Shout out to the nephew, Coach Michael Hunter Jr. He is a defensive back coach for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And guess what? Coach Mike is coming on the show next week.
Nice.
Hey, but allow me to do this though. The same way you gave shouts and props to you. I'm gonna be honest with you, these are two of the most least like college teams I've ever seen. Like
facts.
Look outside of my rivalry team, because again, I'm a Florida State Seminole fan. So I hate I hate Florida. But outside of that, I can't stand Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Well, I'll just go ahead and throw my unsolicited 2 cents as an alum of Downingtown Senior High outside of Philly in Pennsylvania. Shout out to Will Howard. Let's go Whippets!
I didn't know he was from there.
I just want to give a shout out to Marcus Freeman, though, man, because I ain't gonna lie to you. Notre Dame has the strength of schedule is there. Them being non-conference always makes the year tough, but for them to get to where they got, injuries and all, they still had a phenomenal season. So definitely shout out to Coach Freeman, because I was like, is what?
Do you think he's going to stay there?
Where can he go? If you think about it, and this is another thing I was actually talking about it with my guy, man. Shout out my guy T Long. But I said, if he had won that college championship at one of the most prestigious schools in college football history, which way is up for him? Like, the only thing that would be better than that is just to do it again. But I don't want to change schools unless you want to go pro. And even then, what Nick Saban said in a recent interview was everything. He said, you want to be Bear Bryant or you want to be what's my guy from Green Bay?
Vince Lombardi?
He said, you want to be Bear Bryant or you want to be Vince Lombardi? I asked everybody to go check that one out with the Pivot podcast. But he was talking about his time when he left LSU and went to Miami. And he said that was one of his biggest regrets was actually leaving LSU. He said his agent told him, he said, you want to be Bear Bryant or you want to be Vince Lombardi? And he said without hesitation, he said Bear Bryant. And he said, then why the hell are you going to Miami?
Right.
Did he say why he'd made that decision to go to Miami?
He made, I have to go back and finish it, but I do know this much. He said it was one of his biggest mistakes because he actually loves coaching and molding young men, something you really can't do with professional athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Stefanski would second that, but okay, Willie, stop me.
Okay, go ahead.
I can't. He said I couldn't go back to LSU. He said no knock to Tuscaloosa. He wanted to go back, but I couldn't go back, and Tuscaloosa was available. So that's how he ended up at Bama. But if I'm friendly, that's your question you ask yourself. Why are you in this for? Do you want to be Bear Bryant or do you want to be Vince Lombardi? And if it's a Bear Bryant situation, you think about what are the best schools. I mean, when I'm talking about the top of the tops, Notre Dame is usually there.
Interesting.
Statistically, like on the academically, on a athletic level, like in every way, Notre Dame is there.
Mm-hmm.
Where else would you want to go?
Yeah.
So the only thing you have to ask yourself is, do I want one or do I want two? Like, that's your focus.
Yeah.
Let's run it back.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Ohio State's going to probably be the number one team going into next season anyway. They never, ever are rebuilding. They're always reloading. I mean,
you can have a pipeline. Yep.
Yeah, man. You can hear them clocking back the 9 now saying we're reloading. We're not rebuilding. Dwayne, here we go with this, man. I want you to take a look at this because you said it a minute ago in terms of blatant cheating. So I got something for you.
You have to start to understand the position these defensive players are in. Patrick Mahomes in that moment is running side to side. He's basically playing with the defenders. And then when they close on him, he falls straight to the ground. Right. This wasn't a situation of sliding and giving yourself up. These players were trying to tackle Patrick Mahomes as he danced around versus their defense. And when you have a call like this in this situation that gives the Kansas City Chiefs a new set of downs, that's an issue. Yeah. Think back early on in the game to the Will Anderson Jr. roughing the passer as well, where he makes clear connection with the shoulder pad of Patrick Mahomes. We're not making an excuse or saying this is the reason that they won.
But you got to acknowledge the call.
Exactly. And versus the team that you have to be virtually perfect against, them being helped by some bad or questionable calls really hurts a team like the Houston Texans.
So, Dwayne, of course, that is Ryan Clark and Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt. Let's hear it.
I'm gonna say something very unpopular to NFL or football player moms, so please forgive me. But to the actual football players, we already know the mindset. And I'm gonna be honest with you, they should have done it in that game. At that point in time, I'm gonna take the penalty. I'm gonna hurt Mahomes. If you're gonna play with me like this, I'm gonna make sure you stop. I'm gonna hurt you. Not like twisting of like dirty hurt, but I'm gonna make sure you feel me that you're gonna stop playing with me. You're gonna do that because this is ridiculous. Go ahead and give me the penalty, but he gonna learn his lesson today. Since y'all don't want to call it, I'm gonna make sure we all abide by the rules.
What's the difference between taking the penalty and getting like a flagrant where they toss your ass out of the game? What does that look like? Because you know that as soon as they go there,
anything going for the head is automatic. They're already looking to try to get rid of you real quick. So I ain't even trying to, but I'm definitely gonna knock the wind out of him. We going for the ribs. I'm going for something where you're going to learn because he's acting like a little bad kid. Nanny boo boo. And what do you do when the kid get to playing? Sit down. Stop playing. Like, all right, I didn't want to have to hit you, but you weren't listening.
You give me no choice.
You still need to understand I'm still daddy.
Yeah. Interesting perspectives from both you guys. I appreciate the candor on that. I think you guys both know how I feel about the Kansas City Chiefs, so we're not going to even go there right now. All right, one final question from divisional round weekend for you guys. Of the teams that lost this past weekend, which one do we see making this run and getting back to the same spot next year? Do we have And you can't name more than one. So I gotta get one team from you. Do you think it's the Detroit Lions? Do you think it's the Ravens? Do you think it's the Rams? Or do you think it's Houston? Which one of these 4 teams will we see back in this same position next year, Dwayne?
Right now, I have to go Baltimore.
Okay.
And the only reason I want to say Detroit simply because they are ready made, like I said, loaded in almost every area on that team. But your quarterback is always your biggest concern. And if we don't know if they're going to come back running back with Goff, we don't know if they're going to say, hey, let's see if we can get better. Let's see if we can get better. We don't know that yet, but because we don't know that, but I know what Baltimore going to do.
I think for Detroit, a lot of it is going to hinge on the fact that both of their coordinators have found new jobs. They're now head coaches, one in Chicago with Ben Johnson, and and Aaron Glenn now with the Jets. And I don't know what happened to Sapphire, but be that as it may, we're going to continue on. All right. Let's see. So we're at Final Four weekend. Of course, we have the Commanders and Philly for the trilogy, and then Buffalo and Kansas City for seeming like the 2000th time. Keys to victory for Washington and Philly. Go.
Keys to victory for Washington and Philly. Zach Ertz has to be a reliable target. Don't be overly emotional because we already know it's Philly. Get over it. You're going to need that defensive front is young for Washington, the Washingtons, but they have to key in and make that pocket small for Jalen Hurts and make those lanes narrow for Saquon. So gap responsibility is a must. A spy is a must because Jalen's not scared to run. As a matter of fact, when he runs just like a running back. That boy got them tree trunks for legs. I want to find a way to piss AJ Brown off. If I'm the DC, that's what I'm thinking. We don't want him to get going at all. I want him to be in that book as much as possible.
All right. Keys to victory for the Eagles.
Well, for the Eagles, Jaden Daniels has to be. You got to break his spirit early.
That's not going to happen.
And that's what I'm saying. But you got to get to him. You cannot let him remain confident to, quarter 2, 3 coming into the fourth quarter. Because if his confidence is still good in the fourth quarter and it's close, you're going to lose. Something about him finds a way to win games. So his biggest weapon, his favorite weapon is 17.
Scary Terry.
What are we doing? I need to take him out. I have not injury, take him out. I have to make sure he's not effective in this game. I want everybody else to beat me. They can't really run the ball like that. Austin Eckler isn't what he used to be. I know he was coming back from injury, but he's still not his old self. Robinson is a nickel and dime running back. He's not going to be a home run hitter. So I want to make sure Terry does not beat me. That's my main focus.
Right. Yeah. And Scary Terry, Ohio State University. I mean, we go.
I like Terry. I've always liked Terry. I just always said he need a quarterback. And sure enough, he got him one finally, and we see exactly what he's capable of.
Yeah, what Dan Quinn and that ownership group has done in DC it's remarkable. And it should give fans like you and I hope that it can be turned around in a year's time.
Do you know who my owner is?
Well, what I said was it should give us hope.
I always have hope. I'm kind of like the coast is starting to look like the Cowboys now. You keep doing the same thing every year and expecting different results. That's called insanity.
Right. All right. Keys to victory for Buffalo and Kansas City. Let's start with the Bills.
James Cook. James Cook is the key for that. You have to make sure the run game is present at all times, at least through 3 quarters. I have to make sure the run game is present to get me to the fourth, where Josh Allen can do whatever he wants. If you can get him to a point where now you're going to have to respect my arm and respect my legs, Josh Allen is almost unbeatable. But you're going to have to do that by making sure James Cook gets 20 carries, not touches, carries. And you're going to have to make sure Chris Jones works for any and every stat he gets.
Yeah, I think for the Bills, they can get pressure on Mahomes with just 4. They've shown it. The tackles for the Kansas City Chiefs is the weakest part of the offensive line, especially the blind side for Patrick Mahomes. So they can get pressure with just 4 and keep that dude or at least keep him contained as much as possible. And don't allow the referees to dictate how you hit him. I mean, they're going to call it either way. You just going to have to just play through it. So that's what it is.
Play football. That's it. Just play football.
Agree 100%. All right, man. Who's going to the Super Bowl?
Hey, man. I gotta roll with Philly and Buffalo.
Philly and Buffalo. Okay.
Philly and Buffalo. I think Buffalo just has the defense has come alive at the right time, and offensively, as you can see, they can put it up with anybody.
And the captain, he actually texted in his picks. Willie Epting, of course. He's got Eagles 27, Commanders 21. He's got the Chiefs 34, the Bills 24. So he's got the same Super Bowl matchup as you.
Time out. I'm not going to. I said it. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going Washington, Buffalo. I said it last week. I am done going against the rookie. I'm done. I keep wanting to say his age, his inexperience is this is where he's going to learn how to win. And he keeps showing up saying, well, I already know how to do this. I got to put some respect on his name, bro. If I said it, I meant it. I ain't gonna lie to you. This Eagles team looks dominant, but I'm not going against the rookie no more.
So you got the Commanders and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I do not.
No, not the Chiefs, the Bills.
Oh, the Bills. Okay, the Commanders, the Bills. Okay, good. All right. So for me, and like I said, Donnie, Eagles 30 or 27, Commanders 21, Chiefs 34, Bills 24. I gotta believe that the Bills are gonna break through finally. I'm so ready to rub it in the face of Teisha and Regina and every other Chiefs fan out there. Y'all get well too, because I know you are struggling right now and you're a little under the weather, but I'm not here to make you feel better. I am here to say that I hate them so much that I feel like the Bills are going to do it. And Dwayne had chosen Josh Allen to be my MVP for like 3 straight years. And this year I didn't even pick them to go to the playoffs. And here they are. So I need them to do me proud by finally getting it done in Kansas City. And I'm going to say that the Bills are going to get there and they are going to face the Philadelphia Eagles in Super Bowl 60 or 59 or 6,000 or whatever the number is in New Orleans, Louisiana. That's who I got. That is what it is. That's the end of the show. Any final thoughts, Dwayne?
Hey, Thursday. Look here, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. We are running the refills. That's what we call them, of Dylan's Dive Bar on the I Am More Media Group YouTube page. So I need y'all to go over there to I Am More Media Group page, subscribe to that platform, please, and get reacquainted with Dylan's Dive Bar. Miss Elaine Dillon, she's serving up drinks and she's serving up lifestyle, life talk conversations. Something we all kind of need sometime in this hectic world. She will be back with all new episodes in March. So until then, come get these refills.
There you go. And it doesn't cost anything to support.
No,
just a little of your time. All right, for Teisha, who's out, for Bryan, who's out, for Ben, who's out, for Sapphire, whose internet went out, for Dwayne. I love this song, boy. Good Johnny.
Scientific nation to fail. Blind communities, they read it in braille. Politicians with the skin and scales, details. Sending soldiers and ship and sailors, sunken city divers and trails. Down below, search for survivors. There's no people for several miles. Desert towns around ground zero. Reach down, holding the needle, read the numbers on the needle, measure the source signal, and it sounds like.